Always go out there and make more money, but you can never redo a childhood.
You don't have to sacrifice your family in pursuit of success.
There's one thing that I know nobody will ever say at their deathbed is, I'm so glad I blew your game for that client meeting. And the biggest lie that most founders will say is, I'll make it up to them later. And there's no guarantee about later. And I went from working as many as 90 hours in a week. And then I scaled that down to never working more than 30 hours a week. But at the end of the day, my heart breaks for the little boy or the little girl that's like, where the heck's my dad, and why is work so important and more important than me? My dad told me a few words before he passed away, and he said, don't miss Leo's games. I missed too many of yours.
So how many times have you done it in person?
I think like maybe 3 or 4. Probably my 4th or
Nice.
3rd. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, been a few.
Nice.
Yeah.
How bad was the drive?
It wasn't bad at all. Yeah, I was just on other calls, just knocking them out.
Yeah. So shout out Dave Darnell for connecting us.
Absolutely.
Dave, which is funny because Dave's been a big fan of the show for a long time, and he's been wanting to come on the podcast, and then he introduced us, and you beat him as being a guest on the show.
I just happened to be a little under 3 hours away, so that helps.
That is awesome. Yeah, Dave was like, how did I introduce you guys? And somehow he's getting to be on the Dillon England show
I know.
before me. But that's how life works, and tough luck, Dave.
There you go.
Yeah, well, that's what he gets for living in Tennessee.
I know. That's too far.
Yeah, it is too far.
Yeah.
But, dude, you have, like when I was kind of thinking through how I wanted to do today's show, like you have scaled a massively successful company, you've exited the majority of it, you now found a new passion and something you're very passionate about. And I was kind of like, where do I want to start? And one of the things that I enjoy doing with my guests is like, what's been some successes in the career? Because I like building credibility with the audience, right? So like, just so people know who you are. So you just scaled a massive e-commerce company.
Yeah.
Tell me about how'd you get started in that? What'd you scale it to? Just the success that you've had there.
Awesome. Yeah. 31-year entrepreneur. I started back in 1995. I was 17 years old in high school and started in the supplement space. I started through direct response marketing. That's offline stuff like direct mail, classified ads. And I got inspired by watching an infomercial late night TV. And I was like, wow, they're striking a chord there with that whole be your own boss thing. And so I bought the package, I ripped it open, I put it to action, and I failed miserably. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to keep going with this. And then I landed on supplements there back in 1995.
1995.
Way back then.
Wow. I'm not going to tell you how old I was.
I'm sure you might not have been around.
I was.
Okay, barely.
For a year.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Barely around.
So you stumbled into supplements. What does that mean? Like, so walk me through that business model.
Yeah, nutritional supplements. Basically, at the time there was no internet like we know it now. There was Prodigy and AOL stuff you probably still don't know.
I know AOL.
Okay, AOL.
Prodigy.
There you go. Prodigy
yeah.
and I think CompuServe or something. Anyway, those were some of the popular ways to connect to the internet. And they had these bulletin boards, which are kind of like forums now. And there were some places you can look, but the best place to find at that time was like Small Business Opportunity magazine. And I found a page that really spoke to me. Hey, you can own your own supplement company. They'll distribute for me. They'll drop ship. And all I have to do is do the marketing. And I was like, hey, that sounds good. Sign me up for that. And I was with them for a number of years as far as them being my supplier. It wasn't network marketing or anything. It was like a direct relationship, a wholesale relationship.
For those that don't know, what is drop shipping?
Drop shipping, good question. It's basically when you sell a product, but you don't have to have the inventory for it. So there's a fulfillment center that will deliver the product on your behalf, usually with your own return label, so that the customer, the receiver, feels that it really came from you, and it doesn't really highlight the fact it came from a fulfillment center.
That makes sense, because that's a big thing you see about what's the most popular dropshipping site?
Yeah, Alibaba, right?
Yeah, Alibaba's massive. There's one more I'm thinking of too, but anyway, like dropshipping, that's like college kids like I'm gonna make millions doing drop shipping, right? You hear that as like a career path for a lot of college kids. Like, when did you realize through your journey that you stumbled into something that you're like, wow, this is actually gaining steam? Like, walk me through your entrepreneurial journey.
I would say my biggest success came, this was 1999 when it first like became real. I had my first 6-figure year and I was a junior in college.
Wow.
I went to college to study pre-med to follow in my dad's footsteps. I wanted to be a doctor. And I realized that my junior year in college, I was like, I'm making enough money that that a doctor would make right now. Maybe I should consider changing my major, because medicine's a completely different path. It's like having 2 jobs or more than 2 jobs with the dedication you need to study medicine. So I changed to marketing, and I never looked back, and that's what happened.
That's crazy. A lot of entrepreneurs have ups and downs, and I'm sure you've had your fair share of ups and downs, right? And you've scaled this. I mean, are you comfortable saying numbers on the podcast or not really?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So where did you scale this to? And then I'd love to like work back on a little bit about your story. So like, where did this thing take you?
Yeah, well, over my whole career, done over 400 million in sales. Yeah, so
that's wild.
And had like you said, failures throughout the way. But as long as you treat those failures as maybe little setbacks, what do we learn from them, and how do we not make those mistakes again? Then I just consider them almost like like going to school.
Like, I mean, first of all, 400 million, like that's just tough for me to wrap my head around. Like, that's a massive number. And remind me, like, so you got into this just because you saw a need and you're like, I feel like I could do this better? Is that kind of just how this all started for you?
Yeah, I was 17, so I don't want to say that I was that smart.
Yeah, right.
But
right.
What caught me about the ad that I saw was that it was to sell supplements, and GNC was the fastest growing chain at the time. And this was for the baby boomers, and they were in their 40s, 50s, 60s. And the whole thing, which is hot with that demographic, and it remains today, is anti-aging. People who are in their 40s and 50s want to feel like they did when they were in their 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
And that whole trend really started with the baby boomers back in the mid-90s. And with the internet coming on, like these days, AI is doing this kind of growth, right? Like crazy.
Yep.
That was the internet back in the late 90s. And of course, now it's leveled off. And AI at some point will also do that. But right now, it's doing that hockey stick growth. And so combining the supplements with the internet was sort of like my way to capture 2 major growing things.
And the internet, like, was very new back then. Did you receive any type of like pushback from like parents or friends being like, what are you doing with this internet thing and selling things online? Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah. A huge part of my beginning was with a big pushback, and it wasn't in a
nasty
bad way.
Right.
It was like, we don't know any better because we took a different path.
It's like, we love you and we're trying to,
Exactly. So my dad was sort of like, son, I've built this career and I've set aside money for college. Like, your path is paved for you. He's like, I don't want to tell you what to do, but please do this. and without really saying it.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm like, Dad, of course I'm going to go to college. And I did, and I graduated, but I had this stubbornness about me, because entrepreneurship, you have to be a little stubborn. You have to be a little hard-headed and almost a little bit of crazy, if I'm being honest, because it's like, really, you're going to try that? And a lot of times it won't work, but at the time that it does work, it rewards you for all those other times that you attempted and it didn't work. Whereas other people, God bless them, they're more cut out to just go to a job, get a check, and just go to sleep well at night, knowing that check will come next Friday again. And so I was cut out a little differently.
I mean, what about the internet did you see? Like, you just saw opportunity, right? Like, what was it that really, like, when you saw, you're like, I can make a career doing this?
Yeah, good question. Again, I think at that age 17, I just I was just amazed that I could even do something at that age, because my thinking was, okay, this whatever I'm learning now, I'm gonna have to just wait till I'm out of college. And I'm like, no, I don't have to wait. I can just do it now while I'm in college. So just the fact that I can jump in now and there's no barriers to qualification or age or anything, to me, I was just like, yeah, let's jump in with both feet.
So you pivoted your major, to go back in your stories. You pivoted major, jumped into marketing, finished with a marketing degree. I'm assuming you kept doing supplement sales, drop shipping, all that, whatever that entails. And then after college, you just jumped full time, like just head on into this business?
Pretty much remained full-time in it. And I dabbled in some other things. I sold personal self-defense items like pepper sprays and stun guns. I even sold cars on eBay. I had a friend who was a car dealer, and yeah, we found this sweet spot for these cars well before your day, but it's called Chrysler Sebring. Oh, and we were able to get them for like $2,000 or $3,000 and sell them for like $7,000 or $8,000 and just do that a lot. We probably sold like 20 of them. And eventually the whole market kind of caught up and that spread just kind of died down. I guess you could call that arbitrage. Then I kind of went back to my roots back in the supplement space a few years later. But just before that, I would say it was my first major business collapse. This was in 2005. It was my first $1 million year. And I was ending the year really strong, great year. And I'd put all my eggs in one basket. And it's this thing called Google AdSense. And they're still around today, but there used to be this model, and you were probably like 5 years old, so you wouldn't remember this, but you're building out a lot of websites, and there was no AI back then, so you're building out all these websites and keyword stuffing them and sort of gaming the algorithm, and my sites would rank really high, so I was making thousands of dollars a day on autopilot without really working much. And one day it just sort of collapsed completely, and that was kind of like my first big setback. And there's a little bit of a parallel story to that too, as we talked about earlier, how my dad was like, hey, son, watch out for that path. When I had my first really big year as a junior in college and I was switching my career, I remember that I was still seeking the validation of my dad. Like I needed to hear as a son from my dad, son, you've made it, like you're good. Mm-hmm. And I remember three-waying my dad because, again, before your day, there was no iPhone to check your bank balance. You had to call into the bank and this robot.
Which probably is a good thing.
It's a good thing.
Like, you don't have to refresh to see numbers. Like for me, like just always go down.
Exactly. Yeah, depending on what's going on. But and I remember like, okay, I know how I'll impress my dad. I'm going to three-way him into my bank account so he can hear a six-figure balance. And again, this is late 90s, and I'm in college. So whatever that number is, multiply it times 2 when adjusted for inflation. And so my dad hears the six-figure balance, and I'm thinking in my head, and the whole like, son, you figured it out is coming soon. But then he said, son, you have to pay taxes on that. And then I was like, oh, he just like poured cold water on it. And then that kind of like, I was like, okay, well, you know what? I've been trained by my dad to not bring this up. So anytime we were together, and we had a loving relationship, not as strange, but, I just wouldn't bring up the business stuff because I've been trained to like just keep that within. So how that ties back to 2005, I had my first, like I said, major collapse. And, I'm at his house and I'm a little, gloomy. I'm kind of at the table with my head down and he's like, son, what's up? And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, what do you care? Yeah. But anyway, I was like, what do I have to lose? So I'm going to tell him because I feel really bad. Like my life's over because my business collapsed. And I'm like, I had this great business and it just kind of, evaporated and all that. And I'm just like, whatever, we'll see what he says. And then he said, well, son, you did it once, just go do it again. And then he went off to say something else like, so what do you want to go eat for dinner? And I was like, do you realize what you said? And I didn't verbally say that, but in my head, I'm like, he just like, he might as well put a jetpack on me and I could fly to the moon with the confidence that he gave me.
The validation
like, I got it.
Gave you,
it wasn't exactly like, son, you've made it, hooray. But he finally said, yeah, what you're doing worked. Go do it again. Stop complaining. What do you want for dinner? Like, that's kind of how I took it. And I was like, my goodness. So yeah, he put me, and after that, I was pretty much on a trajectory of success that I would consider that I'm still on.
There are probably millions or hundreds of thousands of people that have tried your business and haven't succeeded to the level that you succeeded. What do you think are some of the things that you learned along the way that helped you be successful in this field?
Well, like I said earlier, I think there's a little bit of stubbornness there, a little bit of craziness. I also think just the willing to meet other people who are where you want to be. And that's one of the big pieces of advice, especially when my son, he started asking me questions about life and stuff. And he's like, what's the biggest piece of advice you'd give to somebody young? And I would say, study from the people who are where you want to be, not from people who haven't been where you want to go. Because I could have been like, hey, Dad, he's my dad. I love him. But he's never had like an internet business. So like, what does he know? But when you're 17, 18, you don't know that. That's where the stubbornness kicks in and you're just butting heads. But had he been like, hey, son, I don't know, let's find somebody who has and then get their opinion. And so anyway, all that ties to say people who give up early or maybe don't find that level of success, I would try to get, mentorship, encouragement, follow people who are where you want to be, and you're likely to get where you want to go as long as you remain with it.
Well, the question I want to ask you is what made you pivot to what you're doing now, right? Like I want to talk about that because that gets me really excited on the kind of the realization that you had and the passion that you have for other dad founders, right? What was kind of the peak of your business career? So like what were you guys doing in revenue? How big was it? And then when did this realization come?
Yeah. So I'll tell you, 2018 was a great year in terms of revenue. It was my first multiple 8-figure year, and scaling, the company, printing money, having access to all the money I've ever wanted, or so I thought, and but hating life. And I know hate's a strong word, but it's because what it was doing to my family, it was ripping my family away from me, or me from my family. But either way, it was the same outcome. And I came to a point where I wanted to do one of two things. I either wanted to sell the business, but that's a multi-year process. Like that's get it listed and get the evaluation, LOIs, and LOIs fail at an 80% rate. Or I could burn the thing down. I'm well-funded. I have more money than I know what to do with at the time. I could unplug the servers, live with the breakage. That'll get me my family back, my sanity back. I can reconnect, and then I'm well-funded where I can build a business that supports the lifestyle that I want. But kind of a dumb idea.
Yeah.
So what I did was I consulted with a coach, my mentor, and he basically lovingly walked me off the ledge of making a potentially dumb decision. And he basically said, stop doing what you don't like doing and keep doing what you're good at. And I'm like, 23 years in business, and it's finally clicking. Whatever, I'm a late bloomer, but I started. And I started doing the work that I now help other founder dads do. And but first I had to do it for myself. And the pinnacle of that transformation was just a little under 2 years later, scaled the business to just shy of $50 million. And I went from working as many as 90 hours in a week. I didn't know there were that many hours in a week, but I seemed to find all of them.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
And then I scaled that down to never working more than 30 hours a week, sometimes living off the grid at 0 hours a week working. And again, the business more than doubled during that time period. But the more impressive thing than the business doubling or even the time was that I was able to pour back into my family. And there's a parallel story to all of this. In 2015, my dad told me a few words before he passed away. And this is 2 weeks before he passed away. He said, don't miss Leo's games. I missed too many of yours. Just like that, verbatim. And I remember when he said that, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm instantly back in the high school gym where I played in about 40 basketball games and he only went to one of them. I'd score a basket. I'd look to the stands, like maybe this is the second game he'll go to. Nope, no dad in the stands. But my teammates, they would score, and their dads are cheering like they won a championship. And I remember looking at another dad, and I'm like, I wish that was my dad. And, that would have crushed my dad because he was a good man, a hard worker, really, really cared about his family. Mm-hmm. But there's no manual for how to live your life through this. And especially for that generation, I think they just had a different upbringing that caused them to perform the way they did. At least that was my experience. And so that was closure for whatever that was. I'm not a therapist. I don't know how to label that, but that was nice. Yeah. The other side of it was like, oh my gosh, I'm version 2 of you all over again. My dad had this thing of nice homes, nice cars, nice trips to Europe in exchange for his presence. And I'm doing that too. Nice homes, nice cars, nice trips to Europe, just like my dad taught me. And so when he told me that, I'm like, this generational thing ends here, but it has to start tomorrow because I'm working 16 hours today. And of course, tomorrow's never tomorrow. Sometimes tomorrow's never, but in my case, it was 3 years. And that's where we pick up at the 3 years where I just wanted to burn the whole thing, transformation. And then the pinnacle was that I never missed any of my son's games like my dad told me not to. And, an interesting story, when he was 8 years old, this is now 3 years ago, we own some property up in northern Michigan on a little rural lake. And we're known as the best house on the lake. And it's rural, so it's not hard to be the best. But we want to maintain that status because people kind of look at us as the go-to for the luxury in that area. And this other home came on the market on Zillow. And I remember looking at it. And I'm like, oh, my gosh, we've got competition. And I'm so used to the prices in Austin, Texas. That's where we live. That seeing these prices, I'm like, this is free.
Yeah.
It's like, I already know the numbers our other house does. We just duplicate that. And I'm thinking, if this thing's not a pile of sticks when we get there, we're just going to buy it.
Yeah.
So we get up there, and the old me would have said, son, here's an iPad. There's a couch over there. Knock your heart out, play. And I don't think any dad would have judged me, but I'm like, this is the new me. Son, you're going to make the offer to the realtor. You're going to tell him we're going to close in 30 days. Here's the price we're going to pay. Leave the furniture, leave the dock, because this is an Airbnb. We'll turn it around fast. Save us like $100,000. Go tell the realtor. And he's like, what am I doing? And I'm like, just go. We'll debrief later. So he goes in the house, and the realtor's there. He's a really tall guy, and he's kind of looking down at my son. And, he's talking, closing dates and leave the dock. And then he looks at me, doesn't say anything, but his eyes are communicating, is that the offer? And I'm like, whippersnapper spoke. That's the offer. We got the house.
That's awesome.
And what I love about it is the legacy and the ripple effects of that, because one day he's going to be with his kids and be like, Grandpa used to take me to make offers, so you kids are going to do the same. And all that's just going to outlive me, and that's exciting. And that's just what happened in my scenario. But I also know there's a lot of other dads that were in a place where I was, say, 10-ish years ago. And there's little kids and not getting the attention from dad that they need. And at the end of the day, I help them get their time back, reconnect with their family, and make more money, and all that stuff's good. But at the end of the day, my heart breaks for the little boy or the little girl that's like, where the heck's my dad, and why is work so important and more important than me? And maybe they're not saying it that way, but that's the yearning of the heart. Because I remember being that little kid. And so I want to tell those kids, look, I'm trying to get your dad's attention. I just need them to hear my words and say, hey, that you're talking about me. And so, that's my goal right now.
Well, I think everyone that listens would agree that that's a great goal, right? I think the pushback that you probably receive is it a realistic outcome, right? Like, what do you do with the CEOs or the entrepreneurs or the founders that are listening to this show, and they're like, that sounds nice, but I still have to provide for my family, right? I still have to, how do I balance the duties of work to continue to provide, and then and then also, is this a timing thing? I'll give you, for me, right? We started this company 6 months ago, right? I'm the only sales for this company, right? So it's like, is this something that I could put into practice now and work 30 hours a week and this company still grow? Or is this once you've put in the time, it's like maybe after 5 years, this is when you look at you know what I mean? Is this a timing thing, or is this a mindset that you should always have regardless of what stage you're in?
Yeah, it's a mindset you should always have regardless. Even when I started as a one-man show, I wish I would have had this mindset, because I have a saying that you're scaling one of two things. You're either scaling freedom or you're scaling chaos. And so you could start from the beginning with the end in mind. Even if you're a solopreneur, you could still create the systems and the processes, and you are the production team essentially. But as people come in, you're delegating in a proper structure to where it's just like you're plugging people into the system, and you're getting your time back as your finances allow. Because there is a season where everybody has to hustle and grind, because that's how we get things going.
Yeah.
But I'm talking to I call it my avatar, cash rich, time poor, like the person who's already done all the hard part. They're already financially successful on paper, and they're still giving all their time to their business, and the family's getting the burned out, stressed out version of dad. That's who my message is for.
It's funny. It's almost like business creates this addiction that, right, during the grind phase, it's like I have to work because otherwise we don't get anything. But then, and I've noticed this, after just being observant, having a lot of people on the podcast, just looking at the world, that grind never goes. Something about entrepreneurs, dude, we just have this, even when the bank accounts are full, it's hard to stop. And it's the business creates this addiction that, you almost always feel like you have to give 80 hours, even if what you're teaching is you don't necessarily have, that doesn't have to be your life. Was it your dad's words that really kind of shook you when he said, don't miss your kids' games? Was that probably the most pivotal moment in this journey for you?
I'd have to say that was the wake-up call. But even me getting that loud, blatant wake-up call at the moment that I did, it still took me 3 years to actually take action on it. It took my my business taking all of my life away from me to actually start taking action on that. And so I believe it took having that in the background all these years to that moment sort of like brought the perfect storm together. And there's even things that are a little deeper than that, which I know is a whole nother topic, but like identity issues. Like, and it ties a little bit into what I was talking about earlier, where I was seeking my dad's approval. And it's like, even after he passed away, I was still seeking my dad's approval. I was getting the approval from my team by solving all of their problems. I was the hero to my business. Because in your business, you have a P&L. You can see when you're winning. You can see when, there's a scorecard, there's reports. And at the home life, it's not as cut and dry.
Yeah.
It's more emotional. And if you're not plugged in, you're going to confuse the peace and silence for everything's good at home when your family has like pulled away from you and planned a life without you, even if they haven't officially like left. And the truth is that, most women think about 2 years to divorce their husbands before they actually do. And so I want to sound the alarm to men who might be in that situation that, hey, it might not be a burning problem right now, but your family could be planning a life without you. And then there's other questions to worry about, like, are you okay with another man raising your kids? Or, are you okay with recovering once you lose half your net worth? But even more importantly, it's the consistent daily access to your kids, which I would say it's got to be the top priority.
Yeah. I mean, this sounds like the need is very present, and your whole mission is so different than the grind hustle culture you see on socials, right? Like most guys that have made it are like grind harder, work harder, and what you're saying is like family first. Like you don't have to sacrifice your family in pursuit of success. Like both can happen. And if I'm hearing you correctly, it sounds like you're saying, but if you had to choose, it's better that you lose a business than losing your family.
I would say so, yeah. Because, there's one thing that I know nobody will ever say at their deathbed is, I'm so glad I blew your game for that client meeting.
Yeah.
But we do that on autopilot all the time.
Yeah.
We just don't stop and think that, one day I'm going to regret that I missed this, that, or the other. Just insert whatever special moment with your wife or your kids that you're picking your business over that. And I get it. Sometimes there's like no other way to do it, but that should make us pause and say, how do we stop this from continuing to happen? And we have a choice in that. We just need to realize that's the option.
I think that's the thing. It's we coast. Like a lot of times it's not even an intentional disregard for somebody. It's the fact that it's like, well, this just has to happen. Like I don't have a choice. But what you're teaching is you do have a choice. And sometimes it's just realizing that 10 years from now, what decision are you going to be happy that you made? And I love your slogan. You said, cash rich, time poor. Talk to me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was the me of 10 years ago. Had all the money in the world, or at least all the money that I ever thought I'd ever need. But I didn't have any time to do anything with it other than just continue to work and be a slave in my own business. And so, time poor just means your business gets all your time and the family gets the burned out, stressed out leftovers of dad.
Yeah.
Don't ask me how I know.
Yeah. I'm telling you, this is coming at the best time for me because it's just a good reminder. Like we're going to be in Dallas next week. Like there's travel plans and there's family decisions that we made together, which I'm really blessed that my wife is fully supportive and we make family decisions when we do these types of things. But I'm telling you guys, if you're listening and you haven't started a business yet, but your business becomes your baby. And it's so easy to rationalize time, effort spent because it's your baby. And I'm telling you, man, it is so easy to 10 years goes by and you're like, I've been raising the wrong child.
Exactly. Yeah, and the biggest lie that most founders will say is, I'll make it up to them later. And there's no guarantee about later. You don't even know if your kids are going to like you later on if you don't put in the work now.
You don't even know if you're going to make it later.
There's so many things we're not guaranteed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the thing that's special. And correct me if I'm wrong, you wrote a book, right?
Yeah, I wrote a couple of books. My first book is called Buyback Time Formula, which it outlines all of the steps that I took to get myself from going to working as high as 90 hours a week to living semi-retired. And there's some stories and of situational things that apply to me directly. And then I wrote another book called Before They Stop Asking. And that's because at some point our kids are going to stop asking for our attention. The more natural way is once they're, maybe a little bit post the preteen and teen years, they're kind of like have evolved, and later they'll come back around. But the other way is if you do like what a lot of founders do is they train their kids to ignore them essentially. Say, hey, Dad, will you check this out? Yeah, 5 minutes, and 5 minutes turns into an hour, and sometimes never. And then you try to reconnect, and the moment's gone. It's like they saw a squirrel, and they're thinking about something else. And so I'm just trying to make founder dads aware that, hey, when your kids want your attention, let's prioritize it. And I get it. You can't like stop at every little thing, but at least try to be there. What I like to say, if you're completely blowing it, some of the most impactful times to be with a child, if you can only pick little moments, is in the morning, like right when they wake up, or right when they come home from school, or like re-engaging with the home, or right before they go to bed. Like if you're not doing any of that, just try to pick one of those times. There's like 15 times in the week that you can pick one of those moments. So just start small and start building momentum.
What I think's interesting, a lot of times when you ask people why they started their business, they start the business, and a lot of times it's not because of just the money. It's people say, "Oh, I started the business because I want to control my calendar. I want to control my schedule. I want to have the freedom to do what I want." And then yet you fast forward 20 years and you have none of the freedom that you were hoping to get, because that's the whole reason you start a business. Like the whole reason which is the ironic like duality of what we're talking about here, is like people start a business to have time freedom and money freedom, and then money freedom happens, but yet they've built a cage for themselves to where that time, the reason they started the business to begin with, they don't get. And what you're teaching is like, it can happen, but if you're not intentional about it, you're just going to coast another 10 years and you're going to blink and it's over.
That's it. Yeah, you've built yourself what I call the founder prison, and now you got to work yourself out. Because yes, you are the most important person in your business because you built it that way. But we need to get out of that mindset to where you're doing proper leadership. Like I used to think I was being a good leader by putting out all the fires in my business. In reality, I wasn't training my people to think on their own, and I was being a poor leader. But I thought I was being a great leader. But they were saying, George is awesome. He puts out the fires. That makes me feel good, and I'm validated over here. And at home things are quiet and cold and stuff. So I'm going to stay over here where I'm loved and wanted and desired, and I'm being a hero. So yeah, we just got to watch out. Where are we getting, the praise from? Is it from the right people? Are we doing the right thing? There's identity issues there. There's a lot going on there.
I ask this question a lot to founders. I'd like to pivot a little bit on the business side of everything you've done. What's a lesson that you've learned over the years that you've been in business that you wish you would have learned earlier? I know one of them is like, don't sacrifice the family. But if you had to like talk about like a business skill or something in business that you're like, man, if I would have just like gone into business knowing this thing, I wouldn't have failed at, in 2005 or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Like what are some lessons that you've learned along the way that you wish you would have learned when you started?
I'd say a couple of things. They might somehow tie together, but like I would diversify. Like I was pretty well diversified, and I put all my eggs in one basket for that. But then the other thing, which might tie into that, is like slow down when making decisions. Because I think when I saw that opportunity, I was like, okay, I'm going to do as much as I can just to make sure that my life is dedicated to just building that one thing. But I've seen that not serve me in other decisions over the years of just rushing into things. So just slowing down and even just praying about it, feeling like, okay, is this the right decision for me right now? Because I'm still guilty of it, so I have to have self-awareness. I'm rushing into this. Let's stop, slow down, breathe, and pray about it, and let's see how we feel. Maybe sleep on it. Some people might need a little bit of time to process things.
One of the rules that my wife and I have that's saved us in a lot of decisions is that we don't make any decision without talking together first and then sleeping on it for at least a night.
There you go.
And that's been a really huge. Now, we've still made some poor decisions. Yeah. Even through that method, but it's also saved us from, I think, worse decisions.
Yeah.
Because if you make that rule of thumb, like even with joining this networking group that we're a part of now, right? Like at the first call, they're like, hey, are you ready to join? I'm like, I might be, but I need to talk to my wife and we need to sleep on it. We just don't make a decision until, and then we ended up joining 72 hours later. But that was after days of prayer and thinking through and planning through. Yeah. So I would encourage our listeners to create whatever rule that is, Because entrepreneurs, man, we have shiny object syndrome, right?
Man.
It's like, and I'm the worst at it, like personally.
I don't know. I might be there with
Yeah,
you.
me and you.
I was thinking new businesses driving down here.
Yeah, same. Like, well, yeah, my wife made me promise no new businesses for this year.
Yeah.
She made me promise. And then ironically, I found an opportunity. I was like,
How about this one?
Yeah. And so if you don't put those, we have to put guardrails to protect us from ourselves. Like, and it starts with even knowing where you're weak and where you're strong. And entrepreneurs by nature just, oh, there's this opportunity. Oh, and one of my mentors, shout out Mike Ruley, he's our EOS implementer. Are you familiar with EOS?
I'm familiar. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he's our EOS implementer, and he's like, Dillon, whenever you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. Mm-hmm. And that framework has been really helpful for me on making decisions. So if I want to say yes to this opportunity, then what are you saying no to?
Yeah.
And back to this whole conversation is like, you might be saying yes to this business opportunity, but are you saying no to your family, right? Or are you saying no to this? And that's a good framework to be like, whenever you have an opportunity, just write down like, what are you saying no to in order to make this thing happen? And that's just been good advice.
No, that's it. Yeah.
For us. If a founder is listening to this and they're like, this all sounds great, I'm cash rich, I'm time poor, what's my first step?
Yeah, as far as how to get themselves out of that situation.
Yeah, like what's the call to action for the audience?
Yeah, I would say go to buybacktimeformula.com/freedom. And there is a quick assessment that you can take. Takes like 2 minutes, and it'll reveal where you're leaking time and profit and how to fix it. So that's kind of like the first step into my world. Get some feedback and see what areas to improve.
What about if let's say someone's like, yeah, I want to talk to George. I'm just not ready for that yet, but I just want an action item that like I could just go put into practice. Like, what would you tell them to like you mentioned there are 3 ideal times to pour into your kids. Would maybe one of those things like pick the morning and just like dedicate 3 mornings a week to your kids? Like, how would you first kind of step in this direction?
Yeah. So as far as reconnecting with the family, that'd be one of the easiest ones. Pick one of those times, stick to it, be consistent. I'd even communicate to your family that you're going to make an effort at doing this, and just be honest with them. Look, I know I haven't been great in the past, and I'm not promising to be perfect in the future, but I'm going to make an effort here. I welcome your judgment. I know that's one of the hardest things as men to receive is some of that criticism, but you're letting your family know that, hey, I'm making baby steps towards restoring the bond that's been broken over many, potentially many years of broken. Hey, I'll be there. No, I can't because of the business. Those kind of things. Yeah.
We've talked. Something just hit my mind, but we've talked a lot about kids, but we haven't talked a lot about the spouse. This is also a very important thing to think through, just when it comes to your own marriage, right? Like, yes, we want to be there at the kids' games. Yes, we want to our kids love them, but like, doing reflective thinking, like, does our wife know we love them? When was the last time we took her out on a date? When was the last time we got her flowers? When was the last time we made her feel loved? Like, that's another whole whole side to this.
That's another book.
Too. Yes. Yeah, there you go. Your next book, right?
Yeah.
Money rich, wife poor.
Yeah,
right.
That's it. Yeah, money rich, but your wife hates you.
Yeah. Is it worth it? No, it is not.
Yeah.
Because that's something else that I think, we could lean really heavy in the kids, but the person we've committed our life to feels left out. Like, how have you tried to balance that in your life?
Yeah, I mean, she needs to see that you are dedicated to restoring the bond at home, and that's through communication. Communication and actions, because you can say it, but she's going to be like, I've heard that before. And don't be surprised when that's her initial reaction.
Yeah.
But you have to show by consistency that, no, this is a true change. And doesn't mean you'll be perfect. And yeah, you'll slip back, and you just got to have self-awareness to say, hey, let's correct the ship once we see that we're going off track. And tell her that she can give you feedback.
Yeah.
That's the best way, because they want to give feedback. And, it's just like, women are wired so differently from men that if we just understood a little bit how that is, then we could be a lot more patient when our wives might see something differently. It's because, they're wired different. That's why they process it this way. Settle down. They're not trying to attack you. They also have their own wounds, from their own, mothers and fathers too, that if all that's like untreated or unaware, then they might be attacking you when in reality they're attacking something in their upbringing that they're just used to, and that's a knee-jerk reaction. And so instead of fighting back to that, figure out why is she reacting in that way, and then have some compassion towards that.
Yeah, I also think that we forget how much patience our wives actually have to be married to an entrepreneur.
Oh yeah.
You
They're
know what
saints.
I mean? Yeah, right. like we suck to be married to.
Yeah.
Like I can imagine if every day. Can you imagine if every day you walk home or you get home, you drive in, and your wife's like, "Okay, I thought of a new way I want to do the furniture for the 15th time this week, and I also bought I invested into the house." Like our 401k, and you'd be like, what? Like that would be stressful to always walk into a new idea, always, and they do it time and time again, and then like 1 out of 30 times they get frustrated, and we're like, our wife is so mad at us, and they need to be more patient. It's like they've been patient for the past 30 years, and I think we need to prioritize giving way more grace to our wives, because if they married an entrepreneur, chances are they've been patient.
Yeah.
Like they've gone through it. And so if they are frustrated at something, or they feel unsafe because of the financial situation of the home, or they feel like this investment, and also most of the time, like if your wife isn't an entrepreneur brained and they're more sane, they're going to be like, maybe we shouldn't empty the 401k and it's not because they hate you.
Yeah.
It's that they're just offering a different perspective. And I think sometimes we get so wrapped up, again, our identity a lot of times is wrapped up into our business.
Mm-hmm.
And then if for whatever reason our spouse isn't there yet, it could be we've done a really poor job communicating our dream. It could be because we haven't done enough to actually prove trust, and we've burned the family 5 times, and the wife's like, "Hey, we can't do this again."
Yeah, I've seen this movie before.
We you get these shiny objects, and I think we sometimes need to slow down and listen to our wives, because they have intuition. I think God-given intuition. That sometimes we just need to okay, why do you think this?
Yeah.
And not just be like, they're out to get us, or they're not supportive. Like that should not be our first, because they have been, and they've been way more patient with us than I think we've probably ever been with them.
I agree. And it starts with the man in the home, and, it's just a reflection of how we've been leading if it's not, where you want it to be. So be the leader and step up.
Be the leader and step up. Listen. If you don't feel like your wife listens to you, then model what good listening looks like to her.
That's it.
Right? Like I just went to the EOS conference, and Gino Wickman, who wrote the book called Traction and just wrote some other books, he was talking about the importance of how everything in the EOS, for those that don't know, EOS stands for Entrepreneur Operating System. It's a way of doing business that keeps your leadership team aligned and scales so you don't implode due to growth, right? And they actually do a pretty good job of unplugging the entrepreneur out of the system so that the system can run. They use terms visionaries and integrators, but it's kind of a very similar way that EOS teaches, if you want your company to actually grow, you need to kind of get out of the way.
Yeah.
So anyway, he was talking about the importance of being open and honest, right? And the way he described honesty is telling someone exactly how you feel, but the key of being open is also then being able to receive it back. Mm-hmm. And that's the key of how EOS, the core root of EOS for it to work, is that business coworkers need to be open. I receive things without reservation. You can tell me whatever you want. It's not going to kill me. But I'm also going to be very direct and honest with you on how this is going.
Yeah.
But it only works if you're open first. And we all like to be honest with each other. Mm-hmm. And even with our spouses, we like to be honest with them, but are we being open?
Yeah.
To where they can also be honest with us without us putting up walls. And what you said, men need to lead. And my pastor and I, we're just, we meet fairly frequently and, talking through things. He's like, if something in your marriage is not where you want it to be, it's your job to fix that and lean into that as the man. Lead your family. And that was a big challenge to me. And I think that that's what a lot of entrepreneur men could be like, oh, my wife's not doing this, or she's not. It's like, well, are you setting the temperature in the home of how you should treat each other? Because it's your job.
Absolutely.
And lean into that.
I know it's a hard thing to turn the mirror back on yourself, but
really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But needed.
But it's needed. So,
first of all, man, I love I can tell this is coming from a deep part of you. It's fun to hang around people that are passionate about something. You found this and you're like, I really want other people to not make the mistakes that I almost did.
Yeah.
That's the best thing ever. how you gave the website earlier, but like, what's the best way for people to reach you?
Yeah, I'd say go to buybacktimeformula.com. There you'll be able to see, everything that I've been up to. And like I said, go to /freedom and take that assessment, and that'll sort of shine a light on maybe some areas to improve first, some low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely put that link in the description of this video. So guys, check the link, fill out the assessment. I'll fill out the assessment, because there are probably a billion ways that I need help.
Don't break the server now.
Yeah, right. It'll be like, this guy's really screwed up. Yeah, do you have that as a category, like just screwed up? That's where I go.
What? No mental note.
We might add that in there. Well, this has been great, man. If you can't believe we already done an hour, which just
flew by,
goes crazy. Is there anything else that is important for you that we chat before we end the podcast? Is there anything that you wanted to make sure that you got across that you didn't get across? I always like giving that opportunity.
Yeah, I'd say the message to take home is, you can always go out there and make more money, but you can never redo a childhood. You only get 18 summers with your kids until they're no longer kids. Summer 19, you're done, at least in as far as them being children. And most founders, when they realize how many summers they have, they're like, holy cow, I got 4 or 1, or I'm out of summers. And so let's make the most of it while we have it.
Yeah, the 18 summers things, when we were talking about on the phone, that's perspective. That is wild perspective. So 18 summers, that's the average summers you have before your kids go to college. I have a 3-year-old, so I have 15 left.
Yeah. And they'll go by fast. That's another thing is, there's plenty. It's like, when you consider they're only 3 months long. And of course, in Michigan, they feel even smaller than that. So, let's
what's up
make
with
the
Michigan
most of it.
summers recently? I feel like we've had like 9-month winters and 3-month summers. It's been brutal.
There's no spring and fall.
I know. It's just like they just dive right in. Yeah, it's unfortunate. But I'm telling you guys, please check out George's stuff. Link is in the description. Bro, you drove 3 hours to be on this show. I hope you enjoyed the
Thank you,
time.
Dillon. No, it's been amazing. Well worth it.
And we're going to be hanging out next week in Dallas together.
Yes, sir.
Shout out Dave Darnell and Intius, his staffing agency. They're a great company as well. But please, guys, click on the link below. Check out, fill out the assessment. And if you are a founder that feels cash rich but is coming at a sacrifice of family that you're not really ready to even maybe talk about, George is probably the perfect conversation. So, brother, thank you.
Thank you
for coming on the
Appreciate
podcast.
it.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Dillon England Show. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace.